Hi all, this is Mayank from Iridium team, and today this is a session, not exactly a session, a knowledge bite series that I was passing on from past couple of weeks. And this is not a typical type of kind of a training or a session or a knowledge series that I'm passing on through document. Actually, it requires a lot of manual work. Instead, I'm doing a recording of this video. It's a quite easy approach for me and you also, right? So this knowledge bite series is all about functions and certain restrictions that apply on functions. Gaurav asked me last day about the restrictive use of certain operations in user defined function. So his question was why we can't use a DML operation. Yes, we have. We all know this, that we cannot use a DML operation within a user-defined function. Well, I know this because when I was preparing for my trainings and interviews and all those stuff, I used to Google it and I got the reason. I didn't exactly got the reason, but I know we cannot use a DML operation. Okay, so today I'll give a demo and I'll try to explain why exactly we cannot use a DML operation and certain other operations within a user-defined function. So if you see here, this is a perfect function code written without any error, nothing. Let me create some error in it. Now you see this red line, it shows some error. If I put my mouse over it here, it shows me invalid use of side effecting operator update within a function, right? So you mark this statement when I say side effecting, okay? Side effecting, this is a very important thing. Now let me use try catch. And you can see some red marks started coming up. Okay, so let me write something. Now see this, invalid use of side effecting operator try catch within a block. So one thing is for sure that some operators called as a side effecting operators are not allowed within a function. So whenever we say any side effecting operator, it may be a DML operation, it may be a begin try, new ID, not anything, those are not allowed within a function. Why? Because if we use anything that is causing some external scope to be changed due to a function, or let me put it this way, a function was actually designed in such a way that it will not affect anything outside its scope, right? Let me show you like this. If I say I have created a function, well, I guess I have created one function, test. Okay, I have one function. Okay, this function accepts one parameter and it returns me some value 2. Okay, so I'm using this function within a select clause, or it may be a from clause in a table valued function. So what I'm expecting within a function is it will give me some value out. Okay, but I'm not expecting anything that this function will do that will affect this session as a whole, right? If I'm using a table just above this function, and within this function if the table value is getting modified, then I do not expect that from a function. Moreover, this select acquires a shareable lock, okay, shared lock. If I do any kind of DML operation within a function, it requires to have a exclusive lock or maybe an update lock, intent exclusive, anything, right? But that is not compatible with a shared lock. So in a way, if I'm using any kind of modification within a function, it's a kind of a conflict that I'm creating, and actually I'm just going everything out of the rules of the RDBMS concepts, right? So something is for sure that I cannot use a DML operation. And moreover, if I'm using any of the update statements, anything, every function has a fixed query plan. It has nothing, it is a constant plan. If I execute this, you see this constant compute scalar, nothing it is. It's a simple compute statements, nothing is there. Okay, so it has no plan of itself, and every update, delete, DML things requires their own plan. Okay, so function was not designed for DML operation, something that I can I've already explained you now. Now the concept comes how the begin try and begin catch is changing the scope, or it's becoming a side effecting. Let me try to explain you in this way. I have this procedure, okay, a begin try begin catch, a second procedure begin try begin catch. Okay, I'll remove this raise error, I don't want it. So my purpose is I am passing a parameter which I am taking as a input in this try demo. This parameter I am passing it to a new SP which is try demo 2. This SP will divide it by a 0, creating a divide by 0 exception, so it will come to the catch block here, right? Since this exception gets catched here, it won't come in the catch clause, it will execute after the try clause. Okay, I'll execute it. They already dropped, so let me create it. And it won't allow me, as it should be the first statement, so that was the reason it didn't allow me to create a procedure this way. Okay, so what I'll do, I'll try to demo and will pass value 1. Just see what happens. It went inside the try block of demo 1, then it directly went to the catch block of demo 2 here, and then it skipped the catch block in demo 1, right? Now just think of a scenario where this was a function. Okay, let's say it was a function. It won't allow me. Again, it is an invalid use of side effecting operations and all those things. If I do this, you see what will happen. First of all, the query is wrong, and let me return something. Okay, something making sense now. Again try, yes, finally I'm right. Okay, so what it tells me invalid use of side effecting, right? It's a side effecting clause. So what would have happened if a function would have allowed a begin try statement? What would have happened? An error might have come, it might have been cached here, and then it would have never gone to the catch block of procedure. So in a way, an error which came to the procedure would have skipped the catch block, right? Why? Because this function would have cached it inside here, so it would have never came to the catch block of here. So in a way, the catch block of this procedure would have turned meaningless, right? Because I'm catching this within the function. So the scope of this begin try and begin catch outside this function is of no use. So in a way, if I use a begin try begin catch within a function, it is side effecting, and it is side effecting the outer begin try and outer begin catch. It is creating it as a meaningless, right? So that is the reason functions doesn't allow even begin try and begin catch. That is the same reason why it doesn't allow a temp table and all those things, right? So it does allow extended stored procedures, and I would like you to Google on extended stored procedures. But extended stored procedure is something that's like depreciated, and it won't be coming in future versions of SQL Server. I don't know if you all have this concept or not, but let me clear one more concept. If you think a difference between a function and a stored procedure is that a stored process is a compiled piece of code which can be reused, but function is not recompiled, I guess that is wrong. It's not that way. Both are a recompiled piece of code. How I can tell you? Wait, I'll prove it that also to you. So let me clear off cache memory first. It's done. I'll prove there is nothing in my proc cache, all empty. Oh yes, this is a statement that I had written. This is some. This is our DMV, a dynamic management view, and this is our DMF, a dynamic management function. I'm using a cross apply to get object ID, object names, and query plans, and all those stuff, right? So let us create a procedure to just show you how what is the difference between a compiled thing and all those things. Okay, so let me quickly create it. Try demo 2. I have changed lot many things over here, so these things are not required anymore. Yes, I'm fine. I'll create this. I'll create this. I'll create a function. Okay, but if I go and see the execution plan, still there is nothing. Why? Any guesses why the execution plan didn't come even after creating a stored procedure or a function? Actually, a stored procedure or a function creation doesn't create a query plan. You know, first time when you execute it, it creates a query plan. So I'll give a execution of function and a execution of stored procedure. Now let's see what has happened. Now you see my stored procedures and functions all have been cached to memory. All are a compiled plan, and whenever I use this, it will take the compiled plans from this cache, right? So that is the way how it works. So we have seen two things today about a recompiled and the compilation concept of functions and procedures, and the restrictions on the user defined functions. Thank you.